Now, KCB Foundation came up with a very interesting plan and a program. It's called the Tujiajiri program. And what they've done is not only skill you, but they tool you. What do I mean by this? The only way someone who has some ability and has proven that they can do some work gets to a point where the value add makes it possible for them to actually make money in the marketplace is when they have a little qualification that's written on a piece of paper. And the institution that provides it is called TVETs. Now, what KCB does is they bring that link together. People apply, when they qualify, that's the link. And beyond the tooling, meaning if you sort of like want to be a stonemason or you want to be a carpenter, they will give you some tools. If it's a hammer you need, that's what they'll give you. If it's nails you need, they'll offer you some basic tools. Then in addition to that, if the business seems to have sort of like gotten some grounding, they offer financing as well so that you're able to continue your business and in addition, get other people employed.
Fantastic. And that's how it works. KCB Foundation, Tujiajiri program?
Yes.
Okay. We get it.
It works.
It does.
Yes, it does.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Do you run a small business? Do you run a medium business? Do you run a large business? And have been struggling with how to make payments from country to country? Well, VetoFX has the answers for you today. You're worried, okay, so if I now make the payment, will it reach before March? Will there be hidden charges? Will I have to now sort out these exorbitant fees that come with having to move money from one currency to the next? Well, VetoFX says, you know what? They have a solution on a platform which says 190 countries where you might be doing business from business to business, sorted. 49 different currencies so you can help you on the platform change from one currency to the next, sorted. Have this money or make payment towards those businesses in very short periods of time, sorted. Issue of hidden fees, sorted. Issue of exorbitant, prices not sorted. All of that will be handled on the VetoFX platform. So businesses, small, medium, large, have been doing business and being able to keep seamless transactions flowing. You can find out more information about that on www.vetofx.com. Tito Alai is a Pan-Africanist and he's with us in the studio today. It's always nice to rub shoulders with fellows, let me just say. So good morning to you and Karibu Sana to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Morning. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here today. We're going to be looking at the continent and its trust crisis. There seems to be an issue and we see the symptoms, hitting us right in the face. But before we get to that, CT is in one African country this week. I mean, he's physically here, but he's in another country because that's where the proverbs are coming from. So he's going to tell us what that proverb is, and then you can tell us how you would interpret it.
Okay.
We are in the Republic. I'm calling the Republic of Niger. Not Niger, Niger. Niger is the river, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, the interesting about the river Niger is this. Like many other rivers on this continent, they play an extremely important role in connecting countries. Because the rivers don't just run through one country, they run from one country. So could argue that whether it's the Limpopo River, whether it is the River Niger, these rivers, the real Pan-Africans, because they actually traverse the continent and they connect the continent to itself and they connect the continent to the rest of the world because all these waters tend to flow to some other bigger water body.
That's beautiful, CT. I've got to give it to you. That's beautiful. You should write it down, patent it.
You're happy?
I'm very happy. I love the way you did that. I love the way you did that, man. I'm with you every day. But you come up with some gems sometimes. That's great.
Sometimes.
Well, okay. I can't tell you everything is wonderful every time.
Can I dilute it?
Yes, please.
I know it was a good mood.
Yes, please dilute
But
it.
you said that the river is the true Pan-African.
Yes.
It got me there.
Right
We
there.
will join a few countries in the continent. We wouldn't reach that whole amount that really is the dream of the Pan-Africanist, is it? So, yeah, it just hit me. Did I dilute it? I diluted the moment.
No, you actually enhanced it. I like your idea of dilution. This is good.
Okay, so the proverb.
Only God can chase away flies from a tailless cow.
Wow.
It's the ball is in your court, Tito.
The ball is in my court.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, it's music to my ears. It's from Niger, a country I know quite well. I've been to Niamey a few times. The Niger River is one I've been on the shores of. So I really buy into what you're saying. Because these rivers are cross-border. Unless we make them into borders like between Kinshasa and Brazzaville, which are the same city but kind of divided by a river. By a river, and also brought together by a river.
Yes.
So now, but dealing with the proverb first, that's a tough one. So only God can keep away the flies from a tailless cow.
Yes.
Wow, that's a hard one. But let me take a stab at it. I would suggest that it speaks to taking care of people who cannot necessarily take care of themselves, because the function of a tail is one of its functions, and for those who have fly whisks and things like that made from cow's tail. So of course that's the function of the tail of the cow, to swat away the flies. And a cow that has no tail, then how does it keep away the flies? I suppose the rest of society, or God in this instance, is the one that can be relied upon to sort away some of the problems of the less fortunate.
How would you apply this to everyday life, Tito?
I would be more empathetic to those who don't have a tail to swat away flies.
Yeah.
Those who don't have
metaphorically
the means,
speaking, they don't have the means.
to deal with everyday problems.
Correct.
Like flies.
But they can be taken care of.
But they need to be taken
They
care
need to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. I mean, for sure, that makes sense. And even as we can apply that to the continent today, that there are those situations that absolutely need to be taken care of, especially when somebody needs a leg up. But we're seeing a very, very different kind of conversation that has evolved over the last couple of days. And of course, we can look at the whole AUC election that took place. Again, we remind ourselves that it was not just one election. There were actually other positions that were being brought in on the day. But then we also see so many things around the continent, don't we? We saw that the African Union had sanctioned a number of countries over coups that happened within those countries over the last couple of years. So they did not take part in the vote. We have also seen that there have been conflict-ridden areas for decade after decade, whether we want to look at Sudan and South Sudan, whether we want to look at DR Congo, and not just the eastern parts of it, but other parts of it as well. Whether we want to look at the western belt of the continent and what we've seen there, insurrections that we see in the Horn, we want to look at uprisings that we see in the southern part. I mean, take your pick. We can find it. But here we are saying that all of this is based on an issue of lack of trust at some level. Those are things that have happened in the past. Those are things that are happening presently, and then things that we see coming into place. With what we see of RSF then wanting to form a parallel government and announcing that on the shores of Big Brother Kenya. What are we seeing happening in the continent today, and why does it point to lack of trust, Tito?
Thank you, Ndu. Let's dive straight in. I think a lot of the... I don't pretend to be an expert in everything. You know, coming in from JKIA on a Bolt, find a young guy, and of course you start discussions as one does, and you find that this guy is an expert in everything. Yeah, he knows economics, what people should do. He's an expert on leadership. He's an expert on commerce. He's an expert on the US. He's an expert on global geopolitics and everything. And you say, wow, these Kenyans are, they know everything.
You know their stuff, man.
Yeah, they really do know their stuff. But as you go along, the one thing that I found the guy doesn't know is how to drive the bloody Bolt. Which
Or
is his
focus
job.
when you're going.
So, yeah. So, I'm not going to say that I know the intricacies of African politics, but it strikes me that a lot of the societal ills that we discuss are symptoms of a deeper malaise. Yeah? And so what you've been talking about, things like conflict, things like inability to come together, and stuff like that, are problems, but it doesn't strike me that they are the real problem. They're symptoms of a deeper problem.
Absolutely.
And to my mind, this is trust is a universal human thing. It's like love, it's like faith, and all these things that are universal. But in the case of Africa, it is a bit more significant because when you read any of these studies that are churned out, there's a trust barometer and stuff like that guys do, kind of do, more or less to rank regions and countries on the lack of trust or whatever. You'll find that once again, Africa is at the wrong end of the league tables. Yeah, we are kind of towards the bottom in terms of trust. The development industry calls it a trust deficit.
Yes.
But that leads us to ask, okay, then show us who has a trust surplus. So that might not really capture what we are trying to talk about. Much as it enables us to compare and say, well, there are some societies that are more trustful. They trust each other a bit more. And in Africa, it strikes me that we don't. So, why are we homing in on trust as a key? It might even be the real disease we need to focus on rather than the symptoms. Because when you talk about anything, everybody blames everybody else.
Of course.
So we'll blame the leadership will blame us, we'll blame, we'll blame all sorts of things.
External
powers, everybody else is to blame except ourselves. But it strikes me that trust, really at the end of the day, we have a crisis because we don't trust our institutions. I dare say our institutions don't trust us. Even private sector institutions. Today I had to part with my with my ID just to come and visit you guys and give away my phone number. Because I'm not trusted. Who are you? What are you coming to do?
Where's the genesis of that mistrust? Because we have mistrust, and then you get to the place where it's even worse, and you get to distrust.
Yes.
But there must have been a straw that broke the camel's back. We did have situations whereby rulers, authority, were able to commune with their people without too much of an issue. What the authority said, was what was done. And the choosing of this authority came from within the community.
Yeah.
We chose our leaders from who, which we still kind of do today.
Yeah.
But at that time, the trust barometer was still pretty high.
Yeah.
So what happened that would have lost that? Because what you're talking about is mistrust across levels. Citizenry, we don't trust one another. There's no trust between citizenry and leadership. There's no trust between leadership and institutions. I mean, take your pick, throw a stone, it'll land on something.
Yeah.
Where did it start from?
And even as you add to that, and because even in our African communities, we had kings. It wasn't such a big deal. Like all these dictatorship issues wasn't such a big deal. There was a king, he was respected, people trusted, he had the best interest of the people. Going back to what Africa was at the time, where did we miss it? Where did we lose it? And so much that we started to mistrust or not trust each other.
Okay, so much as I've said, we shouldn't blame people and all that, but honestly, what you said is true to the extent that African communities, we are a communal people. We were built around families, around clans, around that sort of thing. And before the colonialists arrived, your word was your bond. Is that right? I think so. I wasn't there, but that's what I know.
But it still is. You see, even before the advent of the written word, as we now know it, human beings communicated.
Yes.
And when you hear of folklore, when you hear of oral traditions, these are the means by which we sort of like archived our history, archived our culture. So when people speak and they say things, it represented the truth, and people were held accountable to the things they said.
Yeah. True.
Yes, it was not even complicated.
Yes.
Yes, and there are communities to date on this planet who function on that very premise. That's it. Yes.
So then one of the ruptures, if you'd like, is the arrival of the Mzungu with a piece of paper and telling our chiefs, of course, induced by a few trinkets, told, sign here. This is what we've agreed. And people sign these things, not knowing that the people they're dealing with don't necessarily operate the way they do, right? And so, to cut a long story short, we end up with a continent that is divided, that was balkanized, where decisions were taken in Berlin, not a single African in the room. But that's the genesis of our boundaries. I ask myself whether these boundaries that we have today are relevant anymore. And credit to the institutions, the Pan-Africanist institutions that are trying to bring to life this vision of the OAU forefathers, which was, why don't we operate as a united continent? Why do we have barriers to trade, barriers to movement, barriers to anything, barriers to even communication? Because we've now fallen into this trap of saying, you're Anglophone, you're Francophone, you're Arabophone, you're Lusophone, and all that stuff. We've ended up with a mess, and I don't think it helps us with trusting one another, because these are just reasons to distrust one another. And some of those issues that you mentioned, Ndu, are because we've embraced some of these colonial boundaries instead of raising them. So that's one of the things. But I don't think this trust problem is only it manifests at a macro level. It even starts with us. Yeah? It starts even at family level. That fathers don't trust their kids, the kids don't trust the next generation, we don't even trust. I mean, you can't even do business with your cousin because you say, you can't send remittances to somebody and say, please build for me that house, and you manage him by WhatsApp because you know what will happen. So it's a big deal, and we haven't even discussed things like fake degrees, which I saw was happening the other day. That these days you can no longer trust somebody who comes, applies for a job, and you say, show me your credentials, academic and all, and he produces things, and they're just made up. So, how is a society that has this sort of trust crisis going to do anything meaningful? Because, honestly, we are very brilliant people as Africans, individually. The issue is, can you do anything of scale and significance working alone?
How do you show one nation to another? Because we can take it at the national level. One nation to another, obviously there is a trust deficit here. And it mirrors what used to happen before. Because I keep saying that let's look at something like the slave trade. Let's look at something where resources were taken from one place to another. There was the facilitation of that movement, whether it was of persons or commodities. There was a facilitation of that movement by us, by Africans. There was an element of that facilitation by us. And I think that we still have a hangover of that. That there are people who made money in African countries who are Africans because of the facilitation position or role that they played. And I think that there's some hangover of that we're still experiencing today. Because why would we, in an election that is essentially supposed to put somebody in a position that would guarantee that the unity of the continent is forefront, is foremost, that we still have the kind of conversations that we're having today about split the union in half. Let us have North African Union and South African Union. Let us say that certain nations will pull out of the Rex. Where would that come from?
Actually, you're right, Ndu. What exactly are we hearing, really? Because, and if we are hearing it, who exactly are we hearing speak?
Who is saying it?
Yes.
It's not the Mzungu who is saying it. Who is saying it today?
Yeah, the reason I was flinching when you were saying that we facilitated it ourselves is because I've come to be very skeptical of what I read. Because anything written is an interpretation by whoever feels that they're in a position to write about it. Problem we have is that we don't write, by and large. We as Africans.
Okay.
We just don't write. The number of books published in the UK in a given year is more than the number of books published by all African countries put together in 10 years.
True.
So it's not our thing. We don't write.
So
But the sad thing,
We tell stories.
You know what,
we just talk
tell
from morning to
stories.
evening. We just
tell stories.
Yeah, we're just telling stories, and
But I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I think the manner in which we today are using that particular tool is not as glorified as a written book is.
True. But what I'm trying to say is that it's fine. But the problem comes that we believe the written word because of the way we've been conditioned to believe the written word. So you're reading stuff, you're believing it. We don't even have critical thinking. We were not taught to think critically. We were not taught to read a book and then asked in the exam to tear it apart.
Is it?
We were not. So we are just imbibing all these things that we read. When the Mzungu says, you guys, it's your fault that slavery happened. You facilitated it. Your leaders sold it.
Actually,
How do you know that that's true?
all right.
You say it's because you read it.
No, even forget the reading aside, Tito.
Yeah.
If you remove the Mzungu, the Mwafrika, the Asian tag and look at human beings and how human beings function, think, work, and how across continents human beings have related to each other, how we've governed each other, there are very many similar threads. Okay?
Yep.
How it is leaders were chosen, or how it is they chose themselves, and what it is that they did, and what it is that people consider to be values that leaders must have. All these things were also conditioned by time and space. Okay? But the values don't really change over time because human beings don't really change. Now, perhaps the thing that the Mzungu, if I go back to the Mzungu concept, understood better than us is how to learn from others and adapt and adopt. The Asians have taken it a notch higher. We have never bothered with it.
Agreed.
So people learn from us and become better.
Yeah.
We stay.
Yes.
Other people who are not there learn from these other fellows and then make it even better. And we actually find that their societies are much improved. And yet the knowledge base was actually this continent at some point.
Yeah.
So the question I would ask is, what is it about us and learning the right lessons that would actually propel us forward? Because we do learn, but we seem to learn the wrong lessons.
Okay.
Because if I look at the leadership that we have on this continent, some of them wonderful people when you look at the time that they are sent to positions of authority. Then it's a downward spiral from then on. And you wonder what on earth happened to this person. Now, if you look carefully, there are those who say it is interference. And where I now agree with Tito, that narrative, I have declined to accept it because you have a choice as to what you accept and what you don't.
Yes.
Okay? It's like in this country when we complain about our politicians and saying, and then our politicians complain, and then you hear the executive being blamed.
Yeah.
Nonsense. You have been given authority and a mandate, which is sovereign, and you sell your birthright. How can it be the problem of the executive?
What would you expect to happen?
If indeed they bought it, they are buyers. You didn't have to sell, but you sold it. So how do we blame them for something which you have done? And it's the same thing that bedevils us as a continent. It is a lot easier to blame other people who are not quite with us for everything that happens. And yet it is us who keep bringing these things upon ourselves.
CT, I couldn't agree more. I think whether it's by choice or education or laziness or whatever it is, the fact of the matter is we have disempowered ourselves. We feel we lack agency. Every time we wake up in the morning, we are just saying, oh, I wish God would come and solve my problems.
It's
I'm
praying fast.
because I can't solve my own problems. And I wish the leader that I'd put there would do this. Why can't the government do this? Why can't this guy do this? Why can't this guy? From morning to evening, morning to evening. That speaks to a belief that you're powerless. You have no agency. You have no drive. You have no self. You can't even wake up and say, today, I'm going to solve my problems. It starts at an individual level, and then at a family level, and then at a society level. Now, the issue is, again, is that the problem, or is that a symptom of the problem that we are discussing today?
Okay.
It's a symptom.
It's a symptom.
I know
And
we're taking a break.
Yeah.
But
Attacking, let's just take a break.
Okay.
Attacking the problem and then coming to look towards the symptom. Let's do that when we come back from this. Tito Alai, Pan-Africanist, is joining us in the studio this morning. And we're looking at the trust deficit, the trust crisis in Africa. It seems to be attacking at every level. Do you trust me, Tito?
Well,
Up to a point, yes.
Up to a point. Up to a
You think you trust me? Okay. If I tell you that in this cup of yogurt,
Yes.
there's a strawberry yogurt,
Yeah.
And it's
that
real.
there's real fruit in it, would you trust me?
No.
Why?
I would have to see with myself. Because
Okay,
I'm
so now,
I,
beautiful, and that's
The
what I want to give
tasting
you.
is belief.
Is very good. Now that's what I want to give you the opportunity to do. And Delamere says you can have a moment where you take a break from your studying, where you take a break from your work, whatever it is that you do. Pop it open, have a taste of that, and you'll actually taste the real fruit. Then you come back tomorrow and tell me how you do trust me.
okay.
And you can have a moment where you relax with Delamere.
Thank you, Ndu.
Sawa sawa.
Sawa sawa kabisa.
Let's take a break on that note. CT, what did you want to? When he tasted
why
it,
is he thanking you and it is me who gave him the yogurt?
I facilitated. Do you see facilitation? That thing we talk about. I
I
facilitated.
mean, I'm
You want me
wondering.
to trust?
Okay, you handed over.
And you can take that to the bank. And one group that is actually making that happen is the KCB Foundation today, where under the 2GRG program, 1 million people are making their way into the job market without the skills that they need, sadly. And the 2GRG program is saying, okay, let's connect the dots, guys. Let's make sure that you can get the skills that you need so that you can get to a job that you would love or start a business that would then help you along in the future. A 6-month skills program and then a toolkit thereafter with much needed credit to start a business or to get a job in many parts of the country is what the 2GRG program is doing. Over 150,000 young people between the ages of 18 and 35 have been facilitated to date, and the numbers keep growing. Find out more information about how you can connect and click in on that on kcbgroup.com/foundation.
Hi, and welcome to Shop.Digga, where we bring you the best deals in fashion, tech, think gadgets and gizmos, think kitchen appliances, think your Christmas movie, all in one stop. All you have to do is scan the QR code and shop till you drop. Remember, Standard Courier brings you all these goods that you buy at the convenience of your doorstep. We bring you the best deals and beatable deals this side of the Sahara. We are on TV every Saturday from 6:30 p.m. See you on Shop.Digga.
Find it real quick. Send it to the click. Wow, the place is sick.
Learners or children born with special needs were looked upon as outcasts in the society. Things have changed. These learners or these children have been incorporated in our schools and they are learning like any other child because there's something they can do.
How many constituencies are there in Kenya?
Mi nasema 47.
Bebe na bana. Wacha mimi entertain sababu hakuna mtu wa kuentertain hapa.
Fighting. Fight.
Yes.
We all know why we're all here. The mission is to attack. The wait is over. The real deal is here. Creatives, TikTokers, Wahesh, skillpreneurs, Masturi, Vaibu, Wachai Wake. Target 1, DJ Matt, the beat assassin. Target 2, Jitabi, the style enforcer. Target 3, DJ Magic E, the frequency bandit. Target 4, Ringa Penda, the laughing menace. Iwake, starting this Saturday, 10 p.m.
DJ Magic E. Enjoy the music.
To pass, including, I don't know if Marcus Garvey is one of those, but where are we with this Pan-Africanism journey?
Yeah.
And the ideologies, really? Do they align?
I believe that they do align. I am a Pan-Africanist because of what I read in school. Things like Things Fall Apart. People like Marcus Garvey, as you say. Even the writings of people like Malcolm X. People like Frantz Fanon, the Wretched of the Earth. And this is before I even had the good fortune to start traveling around the continent, and beyond. Now, the one thing that I would say that we need to do is to strip away all the English that we've had to use and the French. Because we are here now, we are Africans from the same country, but we are speaking in a borrowed language. Yeah? When I joined Fraxim Bank, just when COVID was starting, there were 4 Africa Union languages enshrined as the Pan-African languages. You can guess what they were. English, French,
yes,
Portuguese, and
Those African, yes.
Spanish.
Interesting.
Those are the 4.
Those are the AU languages.
And here I was going to start with Swahili.
I was going to say Swahili too.
No. Swahili came maybe 2023.
Well, I mean, Swahili was only in 2023 towards 2024 recognized as a leading language of the globe.
There you go.
Just 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
But here we are. Are we speaking Swahili?
No, we are not.
Much as it has been recognized as a leading language of the globe, the guys who's recognizing this thing when the Swahili phones are not using the language. We are not investing in it. We are not developing it. We are looking down on it. We are saying it cannot handle scientific concepts, that African languages are limited. And yet, where's all our effort and money going? It's going into foreign languages. So, that's one thing I want you to hold the thought. But let me not run away from your question.
Yes.
Which is to say, is this Pan-Africanism thing, is it one? And do everybody who are taking the thing and say, I believe in Pan-Africanism.
Including President William Ruto.
Exactly.
Raila Odinga has been called as one.
Exactly. Yes. I think we are all Pan-Africanists. And one of the values, CT was talking about values. I think we've got to begin there. Because I was in China one time. I was being hosted by the MD of one of these telco companies. And on the final, it was like a 2-week trip or whatever. But we got friendly. And towards the end, he asks me over dinner, he says, I've not been this close to an African before. But I want to ask you a question, which has been at the back of my mind. And he says, I said, yeah, shoot me. He says, what are you Africans about?
Okay.
So to buy time, I asked him, an excellent question. That's a very good question, sir. But just so that I know that I'm answering your question, how would you answer it if I asked you, what are you Chinese about? So that I answer the question.
Yes.
So the guy says, for us it's easy. 3,000, 4,000 years old. It's very easy. In fact, I don't need a sentence. I'll give you one word. We are about balance. That's what all this Confucian thing is all about. At the end of the day, we boil it, sum it up as balance. That's what we are. Over to you. What are you Africans about?
I hope you didn't say imbalance.
I came close, but what what I came up with under pressure was to say we are about diversity.
Oh, that's a very good answer.
Yeah.
I thought I tried under the circumstances.
Diversity.
And why am I saying diversity? Is because do not believe all these writings that say Africans speak different languages, they're just dying to kill each other. You know, that they have, in fact, they say tribes, which they don't use in their own thing. And there's a clash there of values because you're coming from a continent where hegemony is the thing. The strong absorb the weak or exterminate them. Let's say what it is. And you end up with a monolithic culture that's hegemonistic. And if you're not buying into that, then you're killed off, right? Now, African culture is not like that. We speak the most number of languages per capita. And we are just jostling happily side by side. We adopt some lingua franca, we've got some practices. We're just, we are not killing each other at industrial scale. If there's a bit of a tiff, there is, but honestly, Africans are tolerant of each other. They're tolerant of difference, tolerant of diversity. One of our virtues is hospitality. The further a visitor comes from, the more you're going to kill the chicken and the goat and whatever, when you guys don't even eat these things. So a visitor has come. He doesn't even speak our language, right?
Like we just offered de la Mer.
They just offered de la Mer, which
you enjoy.
Is fruity. So,
I told you.
But these are the things.
Tito, you make a good case. You see, the understanding a problem is at the heart of how you can solve it.
Yeah.
How do we even begin thinking about coming up with a workable solution?
Yes. Yeah, I thought you might put me on the spot there because, we discuss problems. I think as Africans, we are among the best at analyzing our issues, debating them, defining the problem, assigning blame, and all that.
Yes, it's almost
what we are not good at is solution.
It's almost an end unto itself because we are a debating society.
Yes.
Yes.
So we like to,
But when
we are very eloquent at this.
But when we debate about solutions,
yeah.
Do we debate about how it is we can actually make them real?
Absolutely. How is it a solution if it is a theory?
Yes.
How is it a solution if it is a framework? How is it a solution if it is a strategy?
A structure.
Or even a blueprint?
An act.
Yes. So we are hiding behind all sorts of very laudable concepts and clever words. What we are not doing is we are not doing what we identify as the solutions. For instance, if we say we are going to grow our economy by manufacturing things.
Yes.
And then, as we say that, we say, there are a few people manufacturing things, but those are local. We are not going to consume them. How are we solving our own problem? We know that people have to get employed. We know that they therefore have to make some things. But we're saying making it is one thing, consuming it is another.
It's another.
So we've got so many of these issues And let me now get to grips with what the question is, which is, if we've defined the problem as a trust crisis, and it's a trust crisis because it is at family level, it is at community level, it is at regional level, it is at national level, it is at intra-African level, it is at international level. How do we solve such a huge problem? My solution to put forward is that we can do it. We are doing it. Let's start with the case of Kenya, where we've recognized that in this fast-changing world, some of the most practical solutions that we can apply to our societal issues is leveraging the latest technologies that we can find. I've seen this through my career because I started dabbling with technology with Aisi Makatiani, Africa Online, where we were trying to bridge the digital divide across Africa. And there we were. We're not only talking about it, we're actually doing it. Pan-African ISP in the early days. We tried that. And then when I joined Mo Ibrahim's outfit to commercialize mobile telephony, it was at a time when even prepaid billing did not exist because everybody came from a telco kind of background where you received a bill at the end of the month. You could not access a telephone service if you're not creditworthy. And this is what was going on. And therefore, the penetration of even fixed line phones in those days was very little. I think in Kenya it was less than, there were less than 500,000 lines, really. And that was the same across all Africa. How, if you're, and this is where actually we don't give ourselves credit as Africans, because there's a lot of innovation that has actually come from Africa and from Africans.
True.
But because we have this culture where if you're a clever kid, it's very bad form to go and blow your own horn. You rely on the community to say, Mr. Muga's son is a very good boy. He's doing very well. But what if they don't? Then you still don't shout about your thing. But this thing is about African culture. We are not as bad as, say, the Far Eastern guys who will never say anything nice about what they're doing. But if a pipe bursts in the factory, the group CEO will call a press conference and we will be weeping and apologizing and threatening to resign and all that stuff. So there are a lot more, if you get what I mean. Their culture is even more reticent of self-praise than ours is. We are not at the scale of say, the Western guys who say, you read a CV from somebody from America, you just think that this is the greatest guy. They don't even have the experience, right? If you compare them with an African.
Right.
What I wanted to say is this. The prepaid platforms, the prepaid solutions we enjoy now did not exist when we started rolling out mobile phone services. If you came to a Celtel shop in Kinshasa or wherever, you line up, you pay your $10, we open the switch for you, you go and you consume it. When it's over, you come back, you line up. If you go to the vendors, Ericsson and Nokia and whatever, and say, we need something. We don't have, these guys, we don't even know any credit. We don't have credit histories. Say, there's no such thing as a prepaid billing system. So we had to work on it. So that's the genesis of this thing of pay as you go, because we're a cash society. Guys are living on just whatever. Without African effort, these innovations would not have come to.
Explain. What do you mean?
What do you mean without African effort?
What I mean is, if we have been conditioned to think that there's something called Western technology, there's something called Eastern technology, there's something called Northern technology, then I think we are mistaken, because as City was saying, technology is just technology. Is everybody building?